Well, how are we getting on? So, a screamer client of mine has written in, and he says, "Hello, Dave. Some wise advice there. Not quite sure which one you're referring to, but anyway, some wise advice there, especially the part about the mental aspect. I'm a 54-year-old man. I have been regularly working out since I was 39, when Paul Cox triggered something of a eureka moment in my head with something he said in a class in wild geese." So, wow. 39, so 15 years ago he was training with us in Dublin. In more recent years, nearly all of my training has been lifting, pulling based, deadlifts, squats, presses, shoulder press, pull-ups, various rows, etc. I also do some kettlebell and gym ring stuff. Sounds pretty good to me. I would like to shake things up a bit and start plyometric and sprint training. 54. Yeah, 54. How would you recommend I approach this in a way that I can hopefully avoid injuring my older body? Kieran, and he sent that in through YouTube, so there is value in dropping comments on these videos and subscribe and all the rest of it. Now, basically, I, like 15 years ago, training with Paulie and myself in wild geese. And 15 years ago, wild geese would have still been young at that point, so I wonder what the eureka moment actually was. But anyway, so he's got a squat, he's got a deadlift, he's got chest press, shoulder press, pull-ups, rows, kettlebell stuff, ring stuff. He's doing it right. Do you know what I mean? I mean, training doesn't have to be complicated, and he seems to be ticking the big rocks. And I'm filming this on the phone, and it looks like I'm looking off to the side because the camera's on one end, and any squeaking and noises is Meg in the background there. She'll probably be jumping up in a minute. Right, so Kira wants to add in plyometrics and sprints, and that's fine. Actually, to be honest, it's probably a good idea. Plyometrics and sprints are really good power work, and when I talk about this idea of elasticity, what I mean is muscles, tendons, ligament, maybe not so much the ligaments, but the muscles and the tendons will stretch under load and recoil quickly, and that is elasticity. That's the elastic property of the tissues, and maintaining them as we get older and stiffer is a really, really good idea. Kettlebell swings are plyometric-like. They're not plyometric. And even there's a comment recently on an old video of mine doing some jumping squats on a conditioning set, and the comments are referring to this is a plyometric thing, this is a plyometric thing. And it's like, it's not. It's jumping. Jumping is not plyometric. The kettlebell swing, as it swings back and it stretch loads those hamstrings, that posterior chain, rapidly to spring back and power that hamstring, power that kettlebell forward. It's not plyometric. It's plyometric-like, but it's just a little bit too slow to be truly plyometric. I can't remember the actual figures. Nope, not even going to try. It's less than a second of rebound time, significantly less than a second of rebound time to make something plyometric. So what would be plyometric is skipping, jogging, well, maybe not jogging, running, sprinting definitely, and then bounces, hops, skips. So Kieran's older, he says. His aging body. So what really becomes more important as we get that little bit older, something you don't have to consider in your teens and your 20s, is volume, is how much you're doing, how well you can recover from that volume. And the old phrase, you can only train as hard as you can recover, that never really becomes untrue until you start chemically enhancing. So What Kieran has to do is look at his recovery ability. And recovery is basically calories and counting sheep. It's the food you're getting in, and it's the good quality sleep you're getting, and whatever else that brings your nervous system down. What are you chewing there, dog? She's all right. It's one of her own things. So when it comes to Plyos and Sprints, they can put quite a dent into your recovery ability. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. Too hard, for too long, too much volume, not able to recover enough, and the next thing we know, there's a pulled hamstring, there's a damaged Achilles. You start getting grumpy. Symptoms start showing up. So minimum effective dose. And what that basically means is a little bit done regularly. So we do often tend to think, or people on average do tend to think, that a training session, a quality, an attribute, needs a whole training session. So let's do a strength session. Let's do an endurance session. Let's do a power session. Not necessarily the case. Sprints have never really been my area of expertise. But years ago, a friend of mine on Facebook, another coach in Dublin, whose name has just slipped my mind. See if it comes back to me. I can see his face. Can't think of his name. It will come back to me. But he was an old track and field lad, and he put up a post. So I'm going down to the track, going to do some sprints, and I'm going to do 5 minutes of work, but it's going to take half an hour. And I thought, I like that. I like that. A sprint, a decent rest, another sprint, a decent rest. Now, starting out, especially a bit older, do the least amount possible. So short sprints, 20, 30 meters. Why go further? Plyometrics, keep them real gentle. Keep them nice and light. Just grab a skipping rope. Don't worry about anything bigger and fancy. Just grab a skipping rope. 2 minutes. Build it up to 5 minutes. Do multiple 2 minutes. Then start looking at traveling bounces and hops and skips and all that. But again, keep them light. Pick a 10, 15 meter track, for want of a better word. It could be the length of the gym. It could be your front room. It doesn't matter. I don't know what it is. And one length of that track is one set, and you do 2 or 3 sets. Often with plyometrics, they talk about landings, 20 landings, 30 landings, which is nice. That keeps it in the sort of sets and reps type thinking. But keep it light and vary it. Have one day where you might do a little bit more, and then another day we do a little bit less. But a little bit done each training session. Nothing complicated. She's got a noisy toy now. Now, just check the notes here. Yeah, we've covered just about everything. So, yeah. Hello. Skipping ropes, probably your best entry. Box jumps have been all the rage this last while. CrossFit really put them in the public eye, and now everybody's got these massive plyo boxes, they call them, in the gyms, these plywood boxes. Honestly, they're too big. Will you stop? They're too big for proper plyometric work. A box jump is a power jump, a power movement, which again is a good thing. jumping onto the box takes away the landings. There's no stretch and recoil. Jumping off the box, they're a little bit high for starting. Good for athletes, but a little bit high for starting. There's 0 point in jumping onto a box and then off the box again, unless you're doing two different movements. So quite often I'll have somebody jump onto the box and land a single foot and then do a drop into a controlled landing on 1 or 2 feet, or maybe a recoil movement off the depth jump, depending on who it is and what we're training them for. But yeah, those wooden plyo boxes, don't need them. Stay away from them. They're a little bit too big for most people most of the time. So start with skipping, and we'll say slow sprinting. I know that's a nonsense term, but slow sprinting. Look to run as smoothly as possible over a short distance. And then week on week, shave a fraction of a second off that distance. Keep the rest periods fairly long. A good way of thinking about sprinting, just as you would with lifting, it's when the quality, technical failure on a lift, when the speed of the bar or the quality of the lift can no longer be maintained, the set's over. Sprinting is exactly the same. If you're doing, say, 10 seconds for whatever distance, if you can no longer hit that distance in 10 seconds, you need to either rest longer or knock it on the head for the day. Now, we're talking general fitness here. If you're talking athletic training, yeah, there's a lot more nuance and detail, but keep it quality. Focus on quality, focus on recovery. Sprints, no more than twice a week. Plyometrics, every gym session, just a little bit at a time. Yes, I know you've lost your toy. I'll get it for you in a minute. Say hello. Anyway, let's wrap up there. Oh, plyometric work. Go to Plus Plyos. Guy called Matt Watson. He puts out probably the best information. Don't know him. I've looked at his work. I like his work. I devour his content on Instagram. Matt Watson, Plus Plyos. Check him out. Tell him I sent you. He doesn't know me. Tell him I sent you. Alrighty. Right. We've already said, but we'll say it again. Like, comment, subscribe. Bell thing. Comments. Throw me your questions. Throw me your questions through email. Reply to the newsletter that goes out most weeks. And yeah, we're going to try and get this back to a weekly endeavor. I know we've been a bit sloppy since Christmas, but we're going to try and get back to a weekly schedule. Alrighty, we'll chat soon. Have a good one.